listeners. Starr 103.5 FM.
Starr 103.5 FM, celebrating 10 years of resilience, impact, and excellence in broadcasting.
If an interministerial committee couldn't do anything, why would convening regional ministers who serve at the behest of the president, who himself is an agent of Galamsey, going to make any difference?
People who can afford to pay fees for the education of their wards should send them to fee-paying private schools.
Which of those who are engaged in corruption have been thrown in jail? Which of them? What is he talking about? He's using this as an excuse because I want to go through due process. He's the worst person, doesn't care about due process. Has he tried? How many has he tried?
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Ridge and Might FM in Tamale, Somali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM.
See how convening regional ministers who do not even have the authority of cabinet ministers to declare a war will do anything. This is electioneering politics, and the minister is not serious. And every serious Ghanaian knows that.
For you, that really would not do anything. It's just for the optics.
Absolutely. And you know it, and I know it. If an interministerial committee couldn't do anything, why would convening regional ministers who serve at the behest of the president, who himself is an agent of Galamsey, going to make any difference?
You call the president an agent of Galamsey?
Yes, I did. And I do that very confidently. There is no way the level of destruction of our environment and water bodies would go on without the president's connivance, either by omission or commission. The president is morally culpable for what we are witnessing. So when he put his president on the line to fight Galamsey, the presidency was on the line, at least in the judgment of history, and he has failed.
Sajifo Osiadeyo Ejiman Bedu II has issued a 1-month ultimatum to government to crack down on illegal miners who are polluting water resources, hence destroying forest reserves and farmlands. Have a listen to him.
Yeah, for so cycle I'm say and you be papa. Yeah. Na mom ye wura ka madaroma. Sa ho betina so a ye nim bibi kuro. Yeah. But security agencies na ehwe honsa. Yeah. Hoso na mra ehwe honsa. Yeah. Galanse fo be ehwe ho. Yeah. Beyond chebe. Ye wura sa de emayen saase na osai. Yeah. Na woje na wo hwe so ye. Won fa soja ba nye basbasa. Won fa nchebe. Yeah. Na ma saase na osai a. Yeah. Matinao. Yeah. Matinao. Yewra ni anana ba menka nkyere uni. Yeah. Nyame ye wadom. As a matter of fact, we dey starting ne ya. Yeah. Ye ma ba ne ya otisui. Yeah. Bosome. Yeah. Ye ma ba ne ya otisui MPP. Bosome. Yeah. Biya ye galamse onfa sabi mraso kwanso enje asase so otimi tu agudie no. Yeah. Benfa police for. Yeah. De ne kura benfa soldier for nyede enwurem. Ban stop over yewra after some time. Nananom asase ne ye dia. Yankasa asase ne ba je go ni enfa mabo bio. Abane yankasa ye betu aya ne ye betu ade. Yeah. Cause ye no ye ni asase ne ye dia. Ye ni amanfo ne to ho. Ye ba say ye mfuo. Ye ba say ye kwaye. Ye ba say nsuo. Dabi. Oya ye dene. Me dey ehunu say yewura e privilege bi ne ye dey ama ho say ho hwe so mai na say ho hwe so na ade ne nkoye ya e beduru ba bi na nanom ye be sore ma na nanom afam so say na dey go odu ne aso na je ade.
Meanwhile, founding member of the NPP, Dr. Makoban, says President Akufo-Addo is being hypocritical in his fight against Galamsey.
We are not running our democracy properly because on this issue it's a national emergency. Water, more important than even food. We don't see that because of our greed. All we see gold. It makes no sense. It's really foolish to do that. You are gradually killing yourself because of money. But he knows he has failed, and so he couldn't talk too much about it. Whenever he comes to Kumasi by road, he passes, and Dream River is there, it turned into a gutter, muddy gutter. He sees it all the time. He ought to get ashamed of himself. One day, stop there. One day, stop there, and put a boat on the river, go upriver, and you will find the people who are doing that. Has he ever attempted to do anything like that? No. Just talk, come and go. And when somebody says, Asante Regional MPP chairman is engaged in mining in the national forest, oh, right now he's not doing that. That's the first thing you say. He is doing it. People are mining in the national forest with impunity because it is his administration that gave them the licenses to do that. How does he go back and tell them to stop it when they have spent enormous money to do what they are doing? That is the problem he has. So he has created a problem himself. He can't fix it.
Away from issues of Galamsey, there's heightened tension at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. It follows attempts by management of the corporation to foil a media briefing by staff on the of the corporation on the All-African Games. Now, the disclosure by Sports Minister Mustafa Yusuf that about $3 million was paid to the state's broadcaster for coverage of the All-African Games has led to tension in the organization, despite rebuttal by Director General of the GBC, Professor Al-Hassan, that the entity only made about $300,000 from the games. Some staff members are raising questions about the transaction between the Sports Ministry and GBC. The press briefing, which was scheduled for 9 a.m., has been delayed because management kept the national union leaders in a separate meeting, ostensibly to prevail on them to call off the media engagement. During the wait, other members of the GBC began creating confusion by verbally attacking some union members. Now, my colleague Peter Kwadato joins us from the GBC with an update on this. Peter, what exactly happened this morning? We know that there was, you're reporting that there was an attempt to foil the meeting between management and the union.
Yes, thank you, Nadima. The atmosphere at this morning was not good at all. Yesterday, we had the invitation to a press conference here, and we all knew it was about this Africa Games money, $1 million, and so an issue that was in the media some time ago. But then when we got to the meeting ground, we could see a few at the venue. And then later we were told that there was a meeting going on with the management, involving the management, the public sector workers union executives. Until that meeting is over, they cannot start this meeting. So we waited until they came and the meeting started. But before that meeting could even ended for the executive to come for the press conference to start, there was already agitation. Some other group of GBC staff came to attack these people who are already waiting for the executives to come for the meeting. Why? Because they opposed everything that they wanted to do at that meeting, especially the Africa Games money issues. Eventually, the meeting started, and the Secretary General for the Public Sector Workers Union, yes.
Right. What is the main issue? Because are they saying that they don't believe what management is telling them with regard to the transaction that happened between the sports ministry?
Yeah, the union actually wanted to state the state of affairs regarding the $3 million and the entire working during the Africa Games event. That was one of the agendas they want to give to us this morning. But there was this other group of staff who opposed anybody who wanted to speak about the Africa Games money and whatever happened within that event. And so that was a disagreement. And it was becoming a verbal exchange between the staff, those who belong to the union and those who oppose the union activities. Eventually, when the meeting went on, the General Secretary could not say anything about that, only to say that the management of GBC has agreed for union to set up a date for them to sit down and discuss everything regarding that African Games money and issues. And
but has calm been restored? You mentioned that the news conference has begun.
Yes, the calm has been restored now because the meeting has officially ended. And those who opposed the idea of the meeting were insisting that the General Secretary called for a meeting within the GPC which will not involve the media. But those who opposed the meeting from the beginning insisted that they should allow the media to sing. So at the moment, nobody is at the meeting ground, which is their inner reception. Everybody has left the place. We don't know whether they will come back to continue the internal meeting that they were supposed to do without the media, or everything for the day has ended. So for now, calm has restored. Everybody has moved out of the place, and everything is okay now.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Peter Adato is our man covering the presser at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Away from that, mixed reactions have greeted President Akufo-Addo's comments, seemingly dismissing concerns raised about the challenges facing the free senior high school policy. The president in his address told parents to enroll their children in private schools if they could afford to. His comment was in response to calls by the president of the Ghana Bar Association, Yao Ichampon Boafo, asking government to make the policy targeted.
And in so saying, let me express before I sit down my difference with the president of the bar on one critical issue. People who can afford to pay fees for the education of their wards should send them to fee-paying private schools. Public schools, that is schools funded by the taxpayer, should be free to all who would otherwise be unable to pay for their education. That is why the numbers of pupils who have access to secondary education has doubled since the introduction of the free senior high school policy, and that over 5.7 million persons have benefited from the policy since its inception. The full impact of this dramatic development will be felt in due course and will far outweigh the small number of privileged parents who can afford to pay for the education of their wards.
Well, the rebuttal from the president seems to have caught the attention of majority of the public unaware. Nana Ama Aqua is bringing us what you have been seeing on our social media platforms. Hello, Nana Ama.
Nadima, it's true because free SHS affects everybody. So this is what you had to say on X. We have David who says he doesn't like Nana Addo, but for this one, he is right. A lot of rich people send their children to public schools knowing they can afford their school fees. Nevertheless, most of the government schools also perform better than the private schools. I can't fully agree with him though. Then Kofi says it's simple. If you can pay them, take them to private school. Then you have Bryson Taylor, like your cohorts of politicians who have siphoned our monies elsewhere and can afford top-notch schools across the globe. Richie says simpliciter. Then we have on Facebook, Perez, in the past, you have to pass very well to get a good SHS. Now, all you have to do is write BECE. Quality is no more important. Then Dauda says, Mr. President, you have said what is in my mind. Those who can afford the exorbitant fees of private schools should do so and allow the rest to enjoy the free public schools. Then our last comment is from Afrifa. There's nothing like free senior high school in Ghana here, but I don't know why we keep deceiving ourselves. What is meant by the word free? I think it's affordable senior high school rather than the word free. Well, Nadima, that's what people had to say. A mixed bunch there. So back over to you.
All right, thank you for those comments. Now let's get over to the phone lines and engage Dr. Peter Pate Anti, who is the Executive Secretary of the Institute of Education Studies, and joins us for a conversation on the President's remark. Good afternoon, many thanks for joining us. I mean, aside the Ghana Bar Association president, many education CSOs have also backed calls for making the free senior high school policy targeted. First and foremost, what do you make of the president's response?
Thank you very much. I think that the president's response has been consistent with his position since the inception of the policy. For him, he thinks that the policy should be made free for all, as in how they are implementing it. But unfortunately, his position is not sustainable. It's not sustainable because the very foundation on which the policy is built on are the foundation of access, quality, and equity. So if you're talking about the equity principle of funding, then his position is not sustainable. His position is not sustainable because it's not progressive. Our policies are as good as their sustainability measures. And therefore, if you look at a policy like the National Health Insurance Scheme, you look at something like the GET Fund and all school feeding and all those things, you will see that they have lived beyond the government or the presidents that initiated them. And one of the things that have made these policies last up to this time is the fact that they have been constantly different modes of reviewing and making it more fit for purpose.
But Dr. Anti, the president was able to enumerate some of the successes of this free senior high school policy, including the fact that there's been an increase in enrollment. He wants to make it free senior high school accessible to everybody. Isn't that a legitimate?
No, I don't think anybody has downplayed the importance of free senior high school. I don't think that anybody has said that the free senior high school is not good. I'm talking about sustainability. The policy might be good, but if you are not able to get a secured mode of funding, the policy can die within the next 2-3 years. And that is where we are heading towards. If you look at the sources of funding the policy, mostly we depend on the oil funds or the oil money that comes into the government coffers. And if you have looked at if you've listened and read analyst reports on our oil fund money, you would note that it's a finite source of funding. A time will come that that money will not be available to government. And that is why anybody who have analyzed this policy financially keeps saying that get other sources of funding for the policy. So if the president thinks that getting other sources of funding for the policy means that you have to move your ward to a private school because you have the ability to pay, then that is not progressive. It's not progressive because in our system, at the basic school level, we prefer private schools. At the secondary school level, we prefer public schools. So if the government decides to make a public school free, it still lies on the within the mandate of the parent to insist that you get the good food, you get good accommodation, you get all the requisite things that would enable the child to get quality education. If the parent raises these,
Dr. Auntie, okay.
If a parent raises these concerns, it doesn't mean that the parent is against the policy. The parent is for the betterment of the policy.
Clearly, the president, this is not the first time CSOs and all stakeholders are raising these concerns that you're talking about, but clearly the president has not shown any indication of changing his mind. What then should be the way forward?
That is why I said that his position is not progressive. But interestingly, if you look at the manifesto of both the MPP and the NDC and the other parties, they are all talking about getting sustainable funding for the policy, which means that in one way or the other, they are thinking like the CSOs and other people who are making that position clear. So the president has got a few months to leave. He can continue to hold on with that position, but I know for sure in 2025, any person who takes over the realms of government would pursue a path of sustainability for Free Senior High School.
Grateful for your time. That there is Dr. Peter Patianti, who is the Executive Secretary of the Institute of Education Studies. Let's do sports now with Jones Haji.
All right, so we'll start off from coach of the Black Stars, Otuado, who is optimistic that the team can still qualify after their draw to Niger yesterday. Ghana, who lighted with just a point, will now face Kwesi PS Sudan, and Otto believes that Ghana still have their destiny in their own hands.
But surely it's still in our own hands. We can do something about it, but we have to win. It's still possible, but we have to improve. We have to improve much. We have to improve to use our chances and also to defend that better in detail and to allow less. And like I said, the goals are too cheap and we have to grow from this. We have to learn from this. This is even more than a wake-up call. I'm really disappointed.
Right, to the Under-20 World Cup, Ghana session group opponents in Group F at the Under-20 Women's World Cup. Japan have been drawn against Nigeria in the round of 16 of the competition. Now, Ghana lost 3-1 to the Asians and are out of the tournament. Meanwhile, fellow African side Cameroon will face football powerhouse Brazil. Now, here are the fixtures of the round of 16. Spain would take on Canada. Mexico would come up against the USA. Colombia would play South Korea. France would take on Netherlands. North Korea would play Austria. And then Germany would take on Argentina. That'll be all for sports. My name is Jones Aji.
Right, thank you for those sports updates, Jones. Away from sports, political scientist and leading member of the governing NPP, Dr. Richard Amoakoba, has slammed President Akufo-Addo for comments he made touting government's achievements in fighting corruption. President Akufo-Addo, during the annual general conference of the Ghana Bar Association in Kumasi yesterday, said there was an attempt by his critics to label his government, his family, and himself as corrupt. The president specifically named the NDC as being behind the smear campaign following his government's pursuit of some corrupt former appointees, some of which have resulted in criminal convictions. Have a listen to President Akufo-Addo.
I'm aware that there's a deliberate, politically motivated effort to stigmatize my government, my family, and myself as corrupt. I suspect, as payback for the damaging allegations of corruption leveled against members of the erstwhile Mahama administration, some of which have led to criminal convictions, and others are still being prosecuted in court. In spite of scrutiny by credible public institutions of virtually all these allegations of misconduct on the part of my government, my family, and myself, which have been found to be baseless, the leader of the opposition, the perennial NDC presidential candidate, continues to describe me as a clearing agent.
Well, Dr. Amoakoba disagrees with the president. According to the former NPP chairman aspirant, the president should be ashamed of himself for his brazen lies regarding the matter. He spoke on Morning Star.
Which of those who are engaged in corruption have been drawn in this? Which of them? What is he talking about? He's using this as an excuse because I want to go through due process. Him He's the worst person, doesn't care about due process. He does what he wants. Now the same person come and turn around and say, because of due process, I cannot throw people in jail. I cannot try people. Has he tried? How many has he tried? Whoever told him that we want him to just supposedly throw people in jail? No evidence? No, nobody is saying that. But you have made no attempt at all to do this thing. You have not arrested anybody. Well, let me tell you something. John Kuma, it is said he has 30 million in his account. Has he said anything about it? What about money laundering? Has he arrested anybody before? Just one. What has he done? Nothing.
His argument is that these allegations, when they are thrown about, there ought to be hardcore evidence that this indeed has happened before
Please,
those people will be dealt with.
I'm not FBI. I'm not Yoko. I don't have the resources to present you with so-called evidence. That's the job of the president. You hear these things, allegations, yes. You hear it, follow up. Fine.
Well, nearly 90 days before Ghanaians go to the poll, a new global info analytics poll conducted over the phone in all 16 regions show that 73% of voters believe Ghana is headed in the wrong direction, while 20% say it is headed in the right direction. 7% did not have an opinion. The poll also finds 63% of voters disapprove the performance of the president, while 30% approve and 7% did not have an opinion. Also, the latest poll reveals that the NDC's John Dramani Mahama leads his main competitor, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, with some 53.3% to 31.6%. Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, joins us for a discussion on this very latest poll. Mr. Dankwa, I mean, a lot of people have raised concerns that this response to the figures, this poll is not different from earlier ones that have been conducted. And so they think that the figures are a bit outrageous. How do you respond to this?
Thank you very much for having me. The telephone polls are conducted on the basis of people who have given us their phone numbers to talk to them. If you look at our methodology, and indeed those we sampled in the report, you can see that MPP voters outnumber any other, 32% nearly, followed by NDC, 30%, and floating voters around 28%. If you look at the average number of people with their MPP and NDC in Ghana, it's similar to the ones we have, with the exception of the floating voters who are a bit higher here. So we are confident in the work we have done. We have put out our methodology, which is very clear, and we intend to repeat this telephone poll again in the November before the election. So we are quite confident and can stand by this poll.
Right. I mean, as the political campaign heats up, what would you expect that the political parties do with this latest poll?
No, they have to continue doing what they are doing, looking at the issues that matter to voters and where those concerns are coming from, and on the concerns of first-time voters. If you look at the poll, it is consistent. People who said Ghana is headed in the wrong direction, it's in the same direction, the same level as National Field Survey. If you look at the approval of the president, it's still the same as the Field Survey. If you look at people who said things have gotten hard for them, their living conditions, it's 55%. And if you ask them, what are the top 3 issues that you would consider before you vote? It is still the economy dogs. So this poll is very normal and similar to what we have been doing. If the outcome was quite different from what we have been doing in the field, I think you will have a concern. But broadly speaking, this poll confirms what we have been doing in the field.
Right. Thank you. That there is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa. That's how we wrap up Star Midday News on Star 103.5 FM. I am Nadima Umar Uthman. But for more news, log on to starfm.com.gh. Good afternoon.